welcome to the Utalk Podcast Real Estate Edition. My name is Chad Van Handel, Chief Lending Officer at Unison Credit Union. Today we're excited to have Jason Lund in the studio. This is going to be a great interview. Jason started a real estate journey in 2010. He's the founder of 920 Home Buyers. He has flipped or wholesaled over 200 properties. So without further ado, let's welcome Jason to the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad.
All right. I think the best place to start is just kind of how did you get started in real estate and what was up with that first deal?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. I started out in actually flipping cars and flipping motorcycles and boats and things like that. And I was just going, and I was working a full-time job at that then, and it was fun doing it, but the money wasn't there.
Sure.
It was sometimes it would be, we'd make $20 on a car, and sometimes we'd make $3,000 on a car.
So these ones you were finding at auction, or where were you finding the cars?
Just finding them on. I'm always scraping, like right now, like the Facebook Marketplace, the Craigslist. I'm just always looking for stuff, and it's just knowing your numbers on what the back end value is, and when you see something that's worthwhile picking up, we go pick it up and we turn around and sell it.
Nice. So flipping was in your blood, and it just kind of transgressed into something on the real estate side. Huh?
Yep, and that's kind of when that was pre the crash, and started getting interested in it and never really did anything. And then once the crash happened in 2008, we started educating ourselves more, started picking up books, start reading, and went to a few different events and really didn't pull the trigger until 2010, and that's when we bought our first house.
Okay, so how long was that kind of ramp up period where you're reading books and figuring out that you wanted to do something?
I would say it was probably about a year and a half, but it was not devoting all my time to it. It was still, working my day job and then doing the side flipping, and then, spending maybe an hour a day or, reading.
Sure.
So it wasn't like we were diving really hard into the education then. But in 2010, when we really did start, it was, we were doing 50 hours a week worth of education and learning.
Nice. So if 2007, 2008, 2009 wouldn't have happened and there wouldn't have been the dip, do you think you would have got into real estate?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we were already leading that direction, and it was just more of a push because all of a sudden there was a lot of inventory that came out, and it was 2010 is completely different than what it is today. So.
Yeah, I hear you. So what? Let's talk about the first deal then. What? How did you find it? What did it look like? And
the first deal actually was a property that I bought from a wholesaler. That was a HUD house,
wow.
Which is crazy because, like I said, it was a lot different than it is now. I remember when then. We'd go on, and just in Appleton alone, there would be 65 houses that were just on the HUD, not including Nina, Menasha, Kimberly, nowhere else. But so it was crazy, and they were really cheap. But it was me. I wanted to get into a deal, and I didn't understand that process of buying from the government. So I ended up going through a wholesaler, and they had already had it under contract, and they just helped me align it. So. We could come in and purchase it.
Great. And again, HUD is Housing and Urban Development, right?
Yep.
Right, with the government? Yep. Okay. And so that first deal, I mean, were you, they had it kind of packaged up, and so from a title standpoint, you didn't have to worry about taxes or any kind of the back stuff?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was good to go. It was honestly a really smooth transaction. And it was kind of crazy, too, because it was a really fast flip for us. We ended up buying it. We closed on it, and me and my wife at the time, we obviously didn't have a lot of money, so we were the ones that were actually there doing the rehab on the property.
Nice.
So we had walked into it, and we had started painting, and I think we were there. I think it was 2 days, and all of a sudden we got a knock on the door, and it was a lady, and she said, "Hey, I was trying to buy this property when it was a HUD house, and I couldn't buy it." And we had bought it from a wholesaler, I think for 40, 42, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And she came in and she said, "Hey, I'll give you 70 for it right now.
Oh, wow.
You need to quit painting. You need to, just pack your stuff up and leave." And we said, okay. And 7 days later, we sold the property, and we ended up, I think we ended up making like $26,000 or something by the time we paid our taxes and closing costs and everything else.
So not, I mean, I'm guessing that's not what you expected when you were going into a property that you're going to do it, and then all of a sudden it's going to be closed in a couple months.
Not at all. And it was it was definitely a learning experience because it was like, oh my God, what do I do?
Right.
Like I said, I mean, probably before that on the stuff that we flipped, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 was maybe the tops that I've ever made.
Sure.
So it was like all of a sudden I'm going to be making, 26,000 was like, holy smokes, this is crazy,
Yeah. So did you have, I mean, were there any contractors lined up, or was just you ready to kind of do everything?
Nope. Well, I was trying to do it so I could maximize my profits on it. And, I mean, I've obviously learned a lot since then. And so us thinking that we were going to maximize our profits was us doing it ourselves.
Sure.
And, yeah. So we don't do anything ourselves anymore.
Yeah. Was that in your personal name, or did you have an LLC? Or
at that time, it was in our personal name.
Nice.
I would recommend anybody that's going to get into this game to talk to an attorney and figure out what the best plan of action is. When we sat down and we talked to our attorney said, well, you don't really have a lot of assets and you don't really have a lot of things. So, as long as if you're going to continue to do this, is to make sure you do eventually get an LLC, but that doesn't need to be your primary focus right now.
Sure.
So we did, I think, 2 properties. I think it was 2 properties without an LLC, and then our third one we started our LLCs.
Good. So 2010, was it the beginning of the year, end of the year, middle of the year? And
I think it was April.
Okay. And then how many did you end up doing? Was that the only property you did in 2010, or how many did you end up doing in 2010?
We did 2 in 2010.
Okay. And then kind of where did it go from there for you?
It just got crazier. But yeah, so I mean, from there we started out. So we primarily started out as a flipping company.
Okay.
So we didn't look at anything like wholesaling wasn't a thing for us.
Sure.
I actually at that time didn't believe in leverage. So I didn't want to be leveraged on anything. Really? I didn't want to be a servant to somebody else.
Sure.
So like rentals wasn't on the plate either. So all we were focused on was flips, and so that's why it started off really slow.
Nice.
Because the flipping game is not fast.
Well, that's good. I mean, good for you to be able to kind of do it out of cash and not have to do loans against it. So I mean, from a budget standpoint, did everything go as planned, or? I mean, the first one, obviously, you're just doing the painting. You didn't have to do anything else.
Yeah, we call that's like a unicorn deal, right?
Yeah.
You don't ever see those ones come through very often, but they do happen. As far as budgeting, I mean, then our budgeting was horrible. We're learning. It was, it wasn't good. I mean, we went over on a couple of projects, and it wasn't good.
Right. And okay, so you're doing the flipping, and is there still continuing to be a lot of homes in 2011 for sale? I mean, I think that was a pretty long time for all that.
It was absolutely insane. I mean, like I said, is our business model then versus our business model now is completely different. There was so much inventory that was out there, and I mean, we were getting houses, and I just drove by maybe a month ago a house that we bought in Little Chute that I bought for $7,000, and I wholesaled it to another investor for $11,000, and it's on the market right now for $200,000.
Oh my God!
So just to show you kind of the swings that we've gone through, it's a lot different. I mean, you can't find those deals anymore. Like I said, then it was like you'd have 60 houses in Appleton that were just in Appleton, not including Green Bay, Menasha, Neenah, Kaukauna. I mean, Kaukauna, is a small community, but even back then, it was like 15 houses that were in Kaukauna that were HUD houses. It's crazy. And then, like, now, you go on HUD Home Store, and there's maybe 5 properties north of Milwaukee in the entire state.
Sure.
So it's way different than it was then.
Were you using the MLS then in those first early days, or were you using realtors, or how were you finding those properties?
Yeah, there were some realtors that we worked with, and they would actually have lists that they would mail out every single day, and it would list all of the HUD home stores, all the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac properties, any local banks, because the local banks actually had a lot of stuff too. So they would publish those lists out, and then we would work with them as realtors, obviously for writing offers, and they would do a lot of our HUD properties too.
Sure.
But HUD was definitely the number one source probably for property.
So how many? I mean, how many was your first properties that were all flipped homes? Was it 50 properties, or how many did you flip before you kind of changed the strategy?
I would say we probably did 30 properties before we started wholesaling. And then once we said, how do we do this? Or our business has grown now to a point where we have 2 properties that we're flipping, and we didn't have enough funds to flip the third. So then we would wholesale that third one to another investor. Because we would never shut our business down. That's probably the biggest mistake a lot of new investors make is they work really hard and they go find that one property, and then they quit everything that they're doing, and then they focus on that one property, and then when that property's done, then they come back and then they don't have anything. So we learn by then to keep our business moving forward. So that's kind of the evolution of wholesaling there. And then
you need that cash flow basically to kind of just keep coming in on a continuous basis and then do more deals basically.
And then once you see that that cash flow or the cash come in off of wholesale, and you're like, wow, that was really easy, and I really didn't have to do much work. It definitely became addicting, and it was like, maybe I should be wholesaling 2 houses and flipping 1 house instead of the way I was doing it. Because it's a lot easier when you're flipping paper than it is when you're flipping a house.
Was it easy to find investors and people that you could chat with early on to kind of ramp the business up? Or did you have some mentors early on?
Yeah, I did have mentors early on. The biggest thing for me and why I'm so passionate about the REIAs is there's a lot of people that I hang out with and talk to today were there at my first meeting that I went to. That is an amazing resource for people. And
I think let's talk about that. So 2016 is when you kicked off the REIA, the WiscoREIA. So talk a little bit about what that is and.
Sure. So kind of fast forward a little bit or rewind it a little bit. But I actually had owned the Tampa Bay area. So I was here doing my business, and I was planning on moving to Tampa, Florida. I went down there and I met with some people. People saw what I was doing up here. So I sat down with them and they said, hey, this is what we want to do. Are you interested in coming in and doing this? So for about 3 years, I flew back and forth from here to Tampa every single month and helped them run that, helped them build that up to what it is today. And then I just got sick of traveling so much. So I left that and I came back here. So a lot of the big things with REIAs is a REIA is normally set up as a profit machine. And that's what we did in Tampa. It was a profit machine. So people would come in and we were, hey, you need to buy this new course. Hey, you need to do this. And, hey, you need to do that. And I just said, I was just tired of it. I'm tired of selling people. So when I came back here, there's a bunch of people that I was in another mentorship group with. And they said, hey, we're all blessed by real estate, man. Let's come together. Let's empower these other people in our communities. Let's bring them together and make it work for everybody. We don't need to bring these big national speakers in here that don't know the laws in our state and sell us products, and then then they're gone. You can't ask them questions after they're gone. So that was our focus in for WiscoREIA, and we've been going 4 years strong now. So
that's great. Yeah, I mean, so for people that aren't familiar with that, I mean, again, fantastic resource, monthly meetings, again, bringing in good high-level speakers that kind of talk about all aspects of the real estate world. Good. So again, unpack, go back to 2011, 2012. So you're ramping up, you're doing these wholesales, you're doing flips, trying to kind of get things going. Did you ever think about, did you have some buy and hold that you started to look at as well through that process?
No. As I said, I didn't believe in any leverage. I don't think we bought our first rental, I want to say probably 2016.
Okay, all right. Wow.
And I think it was $90,000. We paid cash for it. And then obviously started getting cash flow coming in there and kind of opened my eyes a little bit more. And then we had bought a second one maybe 6 months after that. Okay. And I really wasn't quite sure on the whole rental thing because I was focused on the flipping and the wholesaling stuff. And then I was sitting there and I really started crunching numbers, and I was just like, hey, this money is making me money while I'm sleeping. And I think a lot of people told me that. They're like, hey, this is why you got to do it. Hey, this is why you got to do it. And I just didn't listen to them. And I had to listen to myself, I guess. And finally I woke up and I was just like, I gotta get moving. I gotta get moving. And the only way I'm gonna get to where I need to be is by leveraging and reaching out to people at banks and building those relationships and acquiring more properties.
Okay. What was then? So then, at that point, was there a door number that you wanted to get to, or it was just let's start building this passive revenue stream and go from there?
So I still am not a huge leverage person. There's a lot of people out there that are. There's certain things that I will leverage, but majority of my rental portfolio is single family and duplexes. Okay. So my motto with those is I like the quality over the quantity. So I don't have a door number. I have a monthly nut that I want to make, and that's really it.
Okay, great, good for you. What at what point through that you quit your day job? What time did that happen for you through that period?
It was kind of a long story before that, but my wife actually had back surgery.
Okay.
So it was to the point where I was like, you got to let me go. You got to let me go. You got to get me out of this corporate world. You got to let me out of this thing. And she said, well, here's your opportunity. Why don't you take FMLA and see how that goes? I would say the first 2 weeks of me on FMLA, well, I mean, her mom was here, and I mean, I didn't leave her at home by herself, you know what I mean? But I would say we probably 10x'd our business in that first 2 weeks.
Really?
And she saw it, and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe that,
Right.
I didn't see this before. And I'm not saying that she held me back because it was kind of the same thing. I really wasn't quite sure. And then, but yeah, we blew it up. And then shortly after that, we hired a full-time assistant. And then we haven't looked back yet.
Nice.
So
I know we've been jumping around a ton, so that's good. So again, we've done basically, you've touched kind of all aspects of real estate throughout your career. I mean, was there a vision, or are you constantly evolving your vision, or how are you deciding where to spend your time these days?
Yep, our vision is constantly changing. Right now, we're kind of looking at our end game. So we're trying to figure out what that monthly number we need to get, where we, figuring that stuff out. But yeah, your vision is always constantly changing. The biggest thing that a lot of people miss out is they create their own vision for themselves, but you also have to have a business vision. Sure. Your business vision can be completely different than what your personal vision is. So you really have to dial it in. People make fun of me all the time, but one thing in my vision is I usually don't get out of bed before 9 o'clock in the morning. Nice. And for me, it's the reason why I do that is because I get up, I get dressed, I get going, I go to the gas station if I need to get gas, and guess what? There's nobody there. Right. If I have to stop at the grocery store, guess what? Nobody's there. Nice. So I try and balance my schedule in the morning off of not the same as everybody else, because if you start your day off wrong, it affects your whole day. So for me, it's like, hey, if I can wake up and I'm relaxed and I don't have anybody yelling at me or anything else, or people mad at the gas station or whatever, you know what I mean? Right. So it's having a vision is very important, and sticking to your vision is very important.
Well, I like the fact that again, you're creating the freedom to live your own life and kind of create your own rules, and how you can maximize your time and maximize your abilities throughout the day. So yep. So with your rentals, did you have property management? Was it you managing it? How did you approach that?
I did have property management, and it didn't go very well. It was going good enough that I let it just keep happening, and then I just got to the point where just like, you know what, I'm allowing somebody else to manage basically my money, and if they didn't fill one of my units for a month. That's the thing is the cash flow on some of these properties isn't all that great, but it's still good enough. But if you have a vacancy for 1 month, you're not remaking that money back for a year and a half to almost 2 years. So that's kind of the point where I got to, and I had some vacancies, and I was just like, why are you not filling these things? And they're just like, no
can't
reason,
find the right tenants,
reason.
Right?
Yeah, we can't find the right tenants, and I was just like, okay. I just don't get it. Yeah. So just recently we pulled it back in, and we're managing ourselves right now. Okay. And we're just trying to figure a direction that we want to go. But we have a lot of people that are in our corner now. So it's easy for us to do it because we have a lot of other investors that we work with, people that we wholesale to, things like that. So when we do have those tricky questions that come up, we can reach out to them or ask them for contacts, and we can definitely get it taken care of.
So do you feel like did you not do your due diligence enough on the property management firm, or it was just kind of the way in general property management is structured?
I think it's just the way it's structured.
Nobody's going to treat your property. I mean, it's your property, so no one's going to have that same care and attention.
And I get it, but it's the property management companies usually have 300 to 500 doors that they're managing, so they're not giving all the attention to just your specific property. So, and I think that's kind of where I was just like, you know what, I had enough. These things need to have more attention than what you're giving them, and it wasn't the cost of management. They actually gave me a pretty good deal, but I just needed somebody to take care of them better. Sure. And not saying I needed to put more on my plate, but that's what we ended up doing, and it's been going great. And we've been there for, I'd probably say 6 months now. Started managing it all,
nice.
And so it's going pretty good. And we just got to figure out what we're going to do for the future. But we'll probably end up having to bring in some more employees and have them do that. And I'll probably end up keeping it in house.
Sure, great. All right, so we're talking about property management. What about on the rehab side, or just the ongoing handyman work that needs to be done on the properties? Are you guys working that, or do you have people that you work with that handle some of that?
Yeah, we have a big list of contractors that we work with. We try and work with the same ones all the time, but that also can be very difficult.
Sure. Yeah.
So just because you're on the list today doesn't mean you're going to be on the list tomorrow. People come and go. Just
right.
But yeah, I mean it's constantly evolving. We're constantly talking to other people, and the same thing is it's using our resources. So we're talking to other people, and we try and share contractors amongst ourselves. What I mean is with other investors,
Sure.
So like if they're flipping a house now, and if I need a contractor, I'll say, hey Chad, can I use your contractor that flipped that house, and on this one, I can pull them over and use them on a house, and then they can go back to you. So they're constantly staying in our circle, and that works really well. So
have you seen people get, I'm assuming, increasingly busy over the last 12 months, 18 months? Are people getting pulled away from stuff that you can't get them in timely, or you still got a good enough crew that
we have a pretty good crew. I mean, even our crews are good enough that even if they say, hey, if we have to close on it, if we have to sit for 2 weeks without any work being done, we'll still do it because we want them to come in and do it.
Sure.
The hardest thing with contractors is getting to know them and building that relationship, because they're always wondering how they're going to get paid, when they're going to get paid. If I send an invoice today, are you going to pay me in 30 days, or are you going to pay me right away? So it's a real tough learning kind of curve.
Yep.
And the same thing, you don't know what the quality of the work is. It's for as you as the investor is, I don't know how well you can do skip troweling.
Right.
I don't know how well you can do electrical. I don't know how well you can how good of a painter you are. So it takes time to learn those things, and that's why when, like I said, we work with other investors, and then we can see, I can go over to their house right now and I can see what kind of work that contractor did, and I can say, hey, can I use him for the next one? And like I said, then we're constantly just sharing.
No, that's great. Your tenants right now, do you get them that they're staying a while, or are you getting a lot of turnover? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, our tenants have been staying a while, even through this COVID stuff.
Right.
We as soon as it happened, we reached out to everybody and we said, hey, we know life happens, and we know that things come through there, and the best thing you guys can do is reach out to us and let us know if there's some sort of an issue, and we can handle it right away. And will be a lot easier on you and a lot easier on us than you waiting until the last minute and calling us and saying, hey, I can't make rent because I've been off of work for 2 weeks. Well, you've known for 2 weeks, and we try and give them as much notice, and we try and take care of them because we want them to feel like it's their house. We're not looking at them as a renter. Like, I don't show up at their house and say, you're my renter.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to them like a normal person, and we treat them like normal people.
I think you talked about some of your homes are a little bit higher quality as well, so you're getting some good people that are coming to those anyway. So that also helps,
and all of our rentals are all remodeled. We put all new flooring in, paint, usually new cabinets, new countertops. I mean, they're nice properties. We're definitely not the the place where you're going to move into where it's got 1970
Sure.
cabinets and, you know,
Shade carpet.
yeah, the green fridges and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, all of our stuff is we try and put a lot of pride into our properties.
How do you decide what is too much for some of the rentals in terms of on a renovation or some of the improvements you're putting on?
Honestly, we take everything to flip level.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that we would if I was going to take the property and buy it and flip it to an actual homeowner,
Mm-hmm.
we do the same quality of work in
Great.
our rentals.
Great. What have you gotten to any situations where tenants have, ripped out copper piping, or have you had any situations that have turned bad with tenants?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rent to what you think are your friends.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah.
advice.
I've had that's honestly the only time that it's ever happened is I had a friend that was going through a divorce situation. I let him move in and everything was good, and then all of a sudden one day he was like, "I'm moving out of here. I'm going to take this anymore." And I was like, what the heck did I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I showed up at the place and we had all brand new carpet and everything in there beforehand, and it was absolutely destroyed.
Oh my gosh.
I reached out to him and I was like, I can't believe this, man. I was like, I helped you out,
Right.
and you did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, well, what do I do? What do you do? Got to keep moving. And I was like, all right. So, yeah. So
Is he still a friend?
No, we're not friends anymore. But yeah.
For the most part, people have been pretty good about it.
Yeah,
when
I mean,
they
it's
can't afford it anymore, they kind of exit out or.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, our big thing is we want them to talk to us,
Mm-hmm.
and us doing that from the beginning. Our tenants usually talk to us. They reach out to us. They'll shoot us text messages and they'll say, "Hey, this is what's going on,"
Sure.
or "Hey, I noticed that this was happening." They're very proactive on stuff instead of calling and saying, "Hey, it's spraying water all over the place now." It's like, "Hey, you might want to have somebody come out and look at the faucet because it's starting to make noise or it's dripping or whatever."
Right.
And then we're proactive on it. We get the plumber out there right away and get it taken care of.
Okay, nice.
So
That's good. That's good. What entities now kind of rolling into more the business side? So what you've got? How many entities do you have set up for the different, the holds and the wholesales and all the other aspects of the business? I mean, how many entities are you managing right now?
too many.
Yeah.
Too many. So, per advice from our attorneys and CPAs, we have, I want to say we probably have 17 or 18 LLCs that are set up.
Mm-hmm.
And we have different stuff in each one.
Sure.
Like, we have self-storage. So there's nothing in there except
Sure.
for self-storage.
Mm-hmm.
We have rentals and there's nothing in there but that. And we have stuff that we've taken over payments on, done subject to seller finance deals. They're in their own LLCs.
Sure.
And then our flipping business has its own LLC.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing happens in that LLC except for our flipping stuff. So
Great.
it's all kind of divided up that way. And then our CPA is kind of the director on that. And they said, this one's an S corp and these are C corps,
Sure.
and this one is this one. I'm good at doing the house stuff. I'm not good at the CPA side of
Right.
it. So we rely pretty heavy on our CPAs and our attorneys for direction on
Sure.
how we should be setting that stuff up.
How long did it take to build those relationships with those two partners?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would say it's that was probably a few years in the making.
Did you have to go through some bad apples then too to get to the right? Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it was, and that's ultimately where it was, because we also went through a few attorneys and we also went through a few CPAs.
Yep.
And we actually, before our current CPA now, we didn't have a very good CPA, and it caused us a lot of problems, and we didn't realize it because, like I said, I don't know that stuff,
Yep.
So I try and lean on them for direction. But yeah, it's been years in the making, and that honestly is probably one of the toughest parts of business is trying to get stuff set up right, so you're not overpaying in taxes or you're underpaying in taxes,
Right.
and it's always it always seems like it's a nightmare every time I sit down and look at it, because it's just like, oh, I think I'm doing this, and then they're like, no, you can't do that, and so it's like, okay, now I got to change focus.
Right.
But yeah, the big thing is once you get dialed in with those people, is you need to have constant meetings with them.
Right.
You have to have constant communication with them. So like we talk to our attorneys probably 2 or 3 times a week, and we talk to our CPA probably 2 or 3 times. Great. So it's constantly, hey, this is what's going on. This is where we're at. We've just flipped a whole bunch of houses. So now do we need to change, what our directions are and maybe start doing stuff in our self-directed IRAs or, so it's that constant communication there.
Good. How long after you started in 2010 did you realize you needed those partnerships? Did it take a little bit, or were those things where you kind of pinned in right away?
Yeah, it took a little bit. Mm-hmm. We basically, my wife was in Mary Kay.
Okay.
So our beginning accounting was based off of what Mary Kay's accounting stuff was.
Nice.
So just because the forms were there, it was just like, wow, this is really easy. We can do this. And then we started, and we still do this today, we started a folder system. So anything that comes in on any property, we have folders for it, as far as receipts, bills, anything like that. And then we usually keep those in our office for 2 years. So then if we ever have to go back and look at anything, they're readily available. Sure. And then after that, we move them out to our storage, and they get stored out there. Good.
What about on the attorney side? Were you guys concerned about the legal aspects of kind of everything you were doing? Was that a quicker transition for you to pull somebody in, or?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. Mm-hmm. That was we had referrals from other investors and that had helped them set up their business. So we sat down with them and talked to them about it first before we talked to their attorney and kind of got the inside scoop on what they're doing, and then we built those relationships, and now one of our main attorneys is out of Milwaukee, and she's actually part of one of our mastermind groups.
Oh, okay, great.
So she's constantly seeing what we're doing, and our business are evolving too, because she's also an investor.
Sure.
And so it's actually a really cool relationship.
It's good, yeah. Somebody that has a boots on the ground that's actually kind of doing it, and in her time as well, that's a good partner to have. Mm-hmm. So the 920 Home Buyer entity, did you just rebrand that just recently?
Yep.
Right?
We were Do Need to Sell Fast, and last year we had 2 properties right at the end of the year, and people came in and they said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because they would ask us for our email. You know what I mean? And so we would agree to a price. We'd get everything taken care of. It's like, we'd call our references. You're good to go. You're good to go. And then they would ask us for our email address, and I would be like, "Hey, it's Jason at Do You Need to Sell Fast?" And they went off, and it turned into I guess kind of a blessing in disguise, because I didn't catch it before, but they were like, "What are you trying to do? I don't need to sell my house fast. You said I could take 45 days if I needed to. What is this?" And I was like, "No. This isn't. Our terms are there." So we sat down and thought about it, and then I was just like, "Well, if you were to ask somebody, or if I met somebody and said, 'Hey, I own a company called Do You Need to Sell Fast?' they'd be like, 'Well, what do you do?'"
Right.
We're specific to Wisconsin, Northeast Wisconsin. So we just looked at it and said, hey, what's our general area? It's the 920. Okay, and we need to get home buyers or something like that added to it. And we did a little research, and that entity was available with the domain name. So we said, hey, at the first of the year, let's take this and jump over to there. The Do You Need to Sell Fast stuff is still out there. You can still email me there. You can still, do all that stuff. But our website's still up there. It's not that we're trying to hide anything or do anything. So it's just we wanted to have our clients understand us better for what we do.
Sure. No, that's great.
We didn't want them to feel like they were being pressured into selling their house fast.
Sure. So as much as you're comfortable sharing, what's the strategy now with the 920 Home Buyer? Is it direct mail? Are you guys driving around? Are you putting bandit signs up? What's
we do everything. We have some acquisitions guys that are underneath us that are doing cold calling. They're texting. Okay. Trying to reach out to people on that side, and then Heather, that's in our office, she runs our mailing campaigns, and so she's pulling data from the court website. We have some other places where we get data from, and so she pulls all that stuff together. We have a VA that goes through and scrapes everything and checks everything out, and then it gets sent out to mail houses, and we're sending out direct mail campaigns. So
how many opportunities are you getting? A month or a week or what? I mean,
like
is it a constant
lead-wise?
flow? Yeah, is it a constant flow of calls and people
It's
reaching
constant.
out from that?
It's constant.
Good.
Yep. The biggest thing though is we were talking a little bit earlier about was referrals. I mean, 80% of our business is based off of referrals. It's people that have worked with us before in the past, other professionals in our community, even mayors, city aldermen. They see what we do, and they'll call us and they'll say, hey, this is what we got. Is this something you'd be interested in working with us on it? And we go from there.
Nice. Going back to maybe the branding as you're changing to the 920 Home Buyers, I mean, how important is what we kind of asked at the end, but how important is branding to you, to your business, or to, on the real estate side, or as some of the stuff that you're doing?
It's huge. Because if you're not telling people what you do or what you're all about, you have no business.
Right.
You have no business. You constantly have to be out there putting stuff out there. I mean, we're putting stuff on Facebook. We're putting stuff on social media. Like when I have people come to our office, I mean, it's just the small things. It's like, hey, Chad, if you come to my office, tag yourself.
Right.
Check in here.
Right.
It's very important because then we can the more people that know about us, the more people we can help.
Sure. No, that's great. A couple other things. So you've had mentors through your career. How has that evolved for you, or have you found? You talked about the mastermind group. How is that kind of working for you right now in terms of mentorship and mastermind group and all that stuff?
It's honestly great because you're constantly sharpening your pencil. It's you think you know what you got going on, and you get very comfortable, and then all of a sudden you get in a room with other people that may be above you. And I really get the stuff out of the people that are below me, because they're the people that are coming in that don't have money, and they don't have all these resources like we do. So they're coming in and they're constantly, they're like, well, we can do this and do this and do this, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like amazing, Instead of like, you go to the more of the seasoned investors and they're like, yep, we're just doing Google ads and, just dump $1,000 a week into Google ads. And these younger guys are coming out with this new stuff. It's crazy. So it's cool to get in that room and you get kind of, both levels of that. But yeah, definitely the newer people we learn a lot more from. No credit. I mean,
well, it's just amazing. Like you said, amazing. When you got somebody with a different perspective with maybe a lower amount of budget to work with, how creative and how much hustle somebody can kind of come up with.
Yeah.
In terms of the area, you talked about the 920 Home Buyers is mostly northeastern Wisconsin. Have you done investments outside of northeastern Wisconsin, or are you looking at that at all?
No, we were looking at doing some stuff in Florida, and then when I pulled out of there, I was like, I don't want to see Florida for a while. So eventually we'll probably start looking some other places and possibly pick up some Airbnb properties. But nice. For the time being, we're just focusing here.
Nice. Are you? Is it still mostly single families and duplexes, or have you ever looked at multifamily in terms of adding that to your portfolio?
Yep. This last week, I think we put an offer in on a 40-unit apartment complex, and we put an offer in on a 20-unit apartment complex, and we're still waiting for our answers back on that. So we are we're pretty diversified in what we're doing. I've owned apartments before, and I recently sold those probably about 2 years ago. I just wasn't ready for it at that time. Sure. So it's a whole different world. So I wasn't ready for it then, but now we're to the point where it's like we got to really ramp this up. And
is it mostly just about the scale of the property? You have more doors at one place. You don't have to drive all over town.
For me, that part doesn't really make a difference. No. It's just I'm getting to the point where I want to be done soon. Sure. And I want to get my cash flow up, and for me to get my cash flow up, I need to find something bigger that can increase it a lot more than just one door. Sure.
What kind of sources do you recommend for ongoing education? I'm guessing the WiscoREIA is probably the one of the top ones. What other places are you getting ongoing education, or can people look to for ongoing education?
There's a website out there called Bigger Pockets. You can go on there. They're I think they're nationwide or worldwide. So there's people from all over the place. There's a lot of really good information on there. There's also a lot of really good information on YouTube. There's some people you shouldn't follow, and other people you should. But if they're focused on their Lamborghini or their Ferrari that they're driving, those are probably people you don't want to follow.
Right. What about any books? I'm sure there's a couple books that potentially you might want to recommend somebody to dive into.
Yep. I can't think of the name of it, but it was the first book that I read. There's a Burr strategy one.
Is the bigger pockets
series
bigger pockets
one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forget what it is. It's I think it was Gary Keller's book. It was I think he did the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but he did one for an investor.
Right.
I'm not sure the name of it, but that was the first book that I read, and I probably read that thing 15 times, and that was kind of my push to get where I am now. So
yeah, and with podcasts and like you said, YouTube and podcasts, I mean, there's no excuse to just throw something in your ear and just again educate yourself and try to figure out what strategy you can use to kind of do some of this stuff.
Yeah, and the big thing with that too is, don't just stay into the real estate podcast. Jump over. Like one of my favorite ones is he changed name now, but it was the MFCEO project.
Okay.
And his name is Andy Frisella.
Okay.
And the guy is amazing. And every time that I listen to anything that he puts out there, is I'm constantly learning something, or it's pushing me forward. So you don't have to stay in the real estate space.
No, that's good. That's good advice. How can people find you, and what's the best place for people to reach out to you at?
You can, if you have questions, you can email me. It's Jason at 920 Home Buyers, or you can give us a call at our office. It's 920-350-3050.
Great. And then what about give us a little bit more on WiscoREIA and kind of some of the other things that are going on with that?
So a lot of our stuff gets put on Facebook. So if you go on Facebook to just search it WiscoREIA, it's WISCOREIA. Or if you can go onto our website, and we have a calendar of events that are there. It's actually pretty cool because we do a one membership, and you can go to all of our locations. We have locations in Kenosha, Appleton, Green Bay, Wausau. We're opening one now in Hudson. Great. And we're working with the Madison REIA to kind of get them all in there. So if you sign up for a membership, you can go to all those locations, and we have each location has a meeting every single month. So.
Good. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time. There's a lot of stuff we didn't even get through because, again, you've got so much going on. But thanks for taking the time. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.